Hello, welcome here. I know that we are well into 2026, but my New Year's reflections have been a little delayed. I've been busy, so forgive me. But it has only really been this week that I really started reflecting on my reading of 2025. And when I was making this list, the book, to make it onto this list, the book had to delight me. That was my rule because I read almost every book I read this year something was good in it. And I could have just talked about every book I read. But that was too much. Too much. So instead, I went through my list, and the books that I remember reading, that just filled up my heart with joy and delight, are the books that I'm going to show you today. I, as always, am so excited to talk about these books and to share them with you, and I've kind of divided them up into some categories. So, without further ado, we are going to start with some short stories. I don't often find myself reaching for short stories terribly often, but I should, because there are some bangers out there. The first one that I'm going to mention is How Much Land Does a Man Need by Leo Tolstoy. This, I'm not going to ruin it for you, but the last line of this got me so good. I included this one for the last line because it was a good last line. Okay. The next one, that was incredible, is The Celestial Omnibus by E.M. Forster. And this is the kind of story that I just love. It's kind of fantastic, very otherworldly. It doesn't all quite make sense. You have to try and find the picture. It's talking about something bigger than itself. And it makes, like when I finish reading a story like that, it makes the whole world around me feel like it's infused with magic. And I really like that. It makes the world feel bigger. It makes my world feel bigger. And it really did delight me. Okay, the last thing in my short story section is The Dubliners. I reread this collection of short stories this year. Actually, I had never read the full thing before. I'd read some of them, but not all of them. Now I've read all of them, and I'm sure I will read them again. I don't know what it is about these, but they're kind of melancholic and dreary, but also dreamy. I just love these. I love these short stories. They create such an atmosphere. I love Ireland. He's so good at painting a picture of like this time and place. Yeah, and the dead. Oh, the last one. The dead. Actually, the dead in Araby. I love Araby. One of my favorite lines from Araby is, "Her name was like a summons to all my foolish blood." I've read that line probably 50 times. Her name was like a summons to all my foolish blood. The next section of books is letters. It is a short section. I only have two collections in here. The first one is the volume 1 of C.S. Lewis's collected letters. I'm sure I've talked about these in almost every video I've made this year. I just loved these. I love reading letters, and so reading the letters of one of my favorite authors, it was a joy I didn't know I was going to receive in this life. But I love this because it gives you a portrait of an author that you love that is different than the picture you get of him when you read his books. You just see the more day-to-day side of him, the more human side of him. And it's just a wonderful accompaniment to his works. And I'm very excited to read the second volume, which I'm sure will happen this year. Oh, loved it. Loved it. Oh, I should set this all here so you guys can just keep perusing as I chat. There you go. Okay, and then another collection of letters that I loved was this little selected letters of Samuel Johnson. Also, again, just fun. It gives you a picture of life at a different time. I love the way they talk in letters. I love his sign-offs. I've started signing a lot of my letters off like Samuel Johnson does. There's some variation of like your affectionate, humble servant, your most obedient, loyal servant, your dutiful son, your most affectionate, humble servant. Like it's kind of over the top, which is why I like it. I don't know if I'm ever anyone's most obedient, humble servant, but I am when I finish a letter. One day, I'm sure I will read The Life of Johnson by Boswell, but this was like a good start. A good little start. The next section is a little nonfiction section. I only picked 2 nonfiction books for this list. I do love fiction. Well, I guess letters are kind of nonfiction. Anyway, the first one, speaking of C.S. Lewis, is called An Experiment in Criticism by C.S. Lewis. This is perhaps the 3rd time I've read this book, and it's a book that I'm probably going to read many more times. It's a book about, I guess, how to read well, or what kind of book lends itself to reading well. It's a book about reading, which is my favorite kind. The Literary Life did a series on it this year, and she explains the nuance of it so well, much better than I can. So I'll link that below if you guys are interested. This book helps me read other books, and I appreciate that. My other nonfiction book that is on this list is another book about books and about reading, and it's called Why Literature Still Matters by Jason M. Baxter. And this book is about exactly what the title says, why literature is important, or how it makes us more human and does things for our soul and for our being that other things can't do. It's very short. He does like such a good job of explaining it. And it just made my heart sing when I read it. Books are such a big part of my life, and it is often hard to explain to people why they are so important to me and what they do for me or how they affect me. And this book does a good job at explaining like one of the things that I think is so important about books, and one of the experiences that I've definitely had reading books. I really like this line from this book that says, "We're reading to close the gap between the beauty out there and who I am in here." We'll leave it at that. Okay. The next category of books that delighted me this year is a category. What should I call this category? Maybe this category has to do with the type of delight. These books maybe were less delightful in the moment, but their rewards are being reaped continually. Eternal delight, perhaps we'll call this category. And the first one in this category is The Divine Comedy by Dante. This was a challenge, especially in this translation. This is the Dorothy Sayers translation. These books delighted me because, well, one, the pictures are so intense and complicated and powerful and beautiful. So if you get like even a little bit, if you read these and just only get a little bit of everything, you still get a lot of good stuff. But I am excited to go back and read it again. I also read Jason Baxter, the same guy who did this book, Why Literature Still Matters. He is in the midst of doing a Divine Comedy translation. He's done Inferno and he's done Purgatorio, Paradiso to Come. And I've only read Inferno of his translation, but his translation was so good and just made the text come alive. This was slow and I had to look up a lot of stuff and I was a little confused. That one, you could really just get into the story. You could just follow Dante through the rings of hell without having to pull yourself out and get a dictionary or figure out what the heck is going on every few lines. So I'm very excited to read the poem, or the whole poem in Jason Baxter's translation. I think that will help a lot. But where I'm going with this is that Dante is everywhere. Ever since I have started reading Dante, ever since I've become aware of Dante, I think he is in 95% of books. Almost everything I read has him in it. What's the last I read? The last book I read, Excellent Women by Barbara Pym, mentioned Dante. Book before that, Victor Hugo, definitely mentions Dante, or Hunchback of Notre Dame, mentions Dante. I think Don Quixote probably mentions Dante. I can't remember off the top of my head, but probably. It's all like almost every, and you just don't even notice it when it's on your radar. But reading these books has made every other book richer and more powerful. And it's crazy. I don't know why this isn't, I mean, I know why we don't read it in high school, I guess. But it's everywhere. And if you like to read and you haven't read this multiple times, you're missing so much. You're missing so many things in every other book you read. That is why these delight me, because every time I read a new book, I am reminded that I read these. And it makes me want to read them again and know this poem even better so that I can continue to understand more of the big conversation that literature is having over time and across the world. Yeah, it's actually crazy. He's literally everywhere. Everywhere. I should keep track this year. That could be fun. Just note which of my books I read this year mentioned Dante, the Divine Comedy, some reference to that poem. I bet it would be most of them. Okay. The next one, which I just mentioned, is Don Quixote. This has been delighting me for a few reasons. One, it was hilarious. It was funny. I actually cackled out loud at moments. It is episodic, and so I thought it might be slow going or it might get repetitive. And in some ways, kind of, but I didn't find it a slog at all. I really enjoyed every episode, and I just thought it was fun. But this also is a book that keeps on giving, because not quite as prolifically as Dante, but dang near close, Don Quixote is also everywhere. Whether they say something's quixotic, whether they call something like not even in books. My friend bought grapes the other day and sent a picture of the name of the grape company, and it was the name of his love interest in this book. Maybe unrelated, but probably related. Or a character in a book is the Sancho Panza, or there's a reference to like one of his adventures. And this was a book that I was really unaware of before. I didn't even know about the famous windmill scene. I knew nothing. But now I do. And now I see it everywhere. And so I am very glad that I made it through that this year. The final book in this category, Eternal Delights, is a book that is very familiar to a lot of you, I'm sure, Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare. I picked up Romeo and Juliet this year just because I was in the mood. I know it very well. I know all the characters and I'm familiar with all the scenes, so I know what's happening. So I could just read it and delight in it. But this was the first time that I really, really delighted in a Shakespeare play. And I am very excited to read more plays, read other plays, and get to experience them the same way I experienced this year. I legitimately laughed and cried in this play, even though I knew it was going to happen. But the way the language just sweeps you up and wraps you around and makes you feel things, he is a master. He is a master. Look at him. There he is. Right there. And I just developed a new appreciation for him while reading this last year. So this was just an initial delight, a delight while reading. But then also all of Shakespeare is everywhere. So just like Don Quixote and Dante, the more I read Shakespeare, the more you see it in every other story. And the bigger the picture gets, and the more delightful every book becomes. Okay. You know what? I wasn't sure if I was going to film this today, but I am so glad I did because it is putting me in a good mood. Okay. The last category is miscellaneous fiction. Oh, just a few other books that filled my heart with delight. Delight is the word of the video. Okay, a couple I do not have with me because other people have them. The first one of the first things I read in 2025 was Lord of the Rings. I can't believe it took me so long to reread them. I read them one time, maybe grade 6. Like, what is that, almost 15, 20 years ago? The moment I finished it, I just wanted to start it over again. The story is incredible, and everyone knows this. These are incredible stories that everyone loves, but their praises, it feels like, cannot be sang enough. It's so good. I could reread it every year, and every year, not be bored, not be over it, just be filled with good things. Okay, so Lord of the Rings. That was definitely a highlight. I almost read it again. I think I already said that. I'm in a Lord of the Rings dream state at the moment. The moment I started thinking about it, my head is back there. And, Sam. I love Sam. Love him. Okay. Okay, and the other book I don't have with me currently, but maybe... This one is definitely... These books aren't in any order, okay? That would be way too painful for me to do. But this next book is definitely in the top half of the list. And that book is called Jayber by Wendell Berry. Wow. Wow. This book, the story, it's like you're on a perfect little raft that is floating down a lazy, warm river in the summer in the south, and it's hazy. And the narrator's voice is just carrying you down this river slowly, and you're being carried away by the beauty, and you're in the beauty. And I love Jayber. I love him. I love him. It is such a beautiful book, and just makes your heart just pulls at it. How does someone write in a way that does that? It is a gift from the Lord. It is a gift. I want to read the rest of his stuff. I also could just read Jayber over and over again for the rest of my life. Okay, next we can move back to the ones I have in front of me. Gaudy Night by Dorothy Sayers. This is the second Dorothy Sayers mystery I've read, and it is my favorite of the ones I have read. I love that it was set in Oxford. Actually, I think I did a whole video about this book this year, so maybe I'll link that below if you want more details. But I love the atmosphere. I love the way she deals with so many complicated topics, but within the structure of a mystery novel. Very impressive. And the romance in this is great. I'm very excited to reread this. Very excited to reread. Okay. Now, the next one. Okay, this one is also one I devoured. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. It was a sweeping novel. I couldn't put it down. I stayed up late to read it. Kind of fantastic, a lot of magic, London, old-timey, all the good things that I love. I thoroughly enjoyed this novel. Spells and magic and a little intrigue. I have 2 left and then we are done for today. But The Last Battle by C.S. Lewis. I read most of Narnia in 2024 over Christmas, but then just didn't get to this one to the new year. And so she gets to be in this one. Otherwise, probably the whole Narnia series would be here. I don't know if The Last Battle is my favorite of the Narnia books. That's a really hard decision to make. But the ending might be one of my favorite scenes. There's this scene at the end where they're all running, and it's just beautiful. And they're all free, and they are going into Aslan's country. And it's really quite magical. So I loved rereading The Last Battle earlier this year. Okay, and then the last one that I am also sure I have talked about in a ton of videos this year is The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. This is the only von Arnim book I've read, hopefully not for long. And I actually read this twice this year. I read it once and I had a very strong emotional reaction. And then I read it again in a calmer state of mind because I knew that I was getting in my own way. And then the second time I could focus on the beauty a lot more and the beautiful picture that that book is painting. It is about these 2 women who meet and go on vacation to Italy, and then they are transformed by the beauty around them. And that is the epitome of my hopes and dreams. So I read it twice. Wow. Well, thank you for listening to this because I thoroughly enjoyed saying it all. I hope that this made you want to read maybe these books or maybe some own books or maybe these books, maybe some other books. I hope it made you want to read good books, and I hope it made you want to delight in books. It made me want to go read books. I might have to go read after this or have a nap. But I am very much looking forward to reading in 2026 and to telling you about it. So thank you for being here. Have a good day. Read a book.